And so I would jump down in there and start preaching to him. And my brother, my dad, and I'd get down there and talk to him about, you can't be safe down in this hole. There's no way to hide from a storm and rain. No way to hide from Jesus. And I'd start trying to preach to him about the Lord down in the shelter. And my dad, my dad was like a sage. I'm going to tell you. How many know what a sage is? It's like a earthly prophet. He used to tell us when cigarettes was a quarter, they'd be $4 or $5 a pack. I used to think he was nuts. He said, "That loaf of bread right there, you'd be paying $3 for that." But he had been through the Depression, and he was a watcher. He watched things. And so he would say things like that, and we'd think, well, you could buy $3 of gas, 3 gallons of gas for $1. Loan was 39 or 59 cents a pound. So you didn't think about a loaf of bread being $2.50 or a pack of cigarettes being $5. But I was somewhere the other day, and sure enough, I saw a sign, Marlboro's $51.99 for a carton. So not long after I got saved, Dad's favorite word, he had the ability to say no. So I knew when I went and asked him something, I didn't even ask him for things, but if I was going to ask him for money, I knew what he was going to say. No. I ain't got no money. He'd say that. I ain't got no money. And after I didn't need any money anyway. I remember the last time he got me out of jail. He got me out of jail because I was on my way to court and pulled out in front of a state trooper. I was going to court, and instead of being able to show up in court, they put me in jail in Oxford. So my ex went to Dad, and he did get me out of jail. So he didn't do much. But at this point, I went to him and told him, I said, "Dad, I'd been saved for a while. I'd already started my church. I was going to church. I hadn't started yet over on High Street here. And I said, I'd like to pay these bills off, and I promise I'll pay you back." And he said, yes. He said, yes. He gave me the money. And I remember, man, every month going up there and paying him. And I was proud as a peacock, man, that me and Dad was finally getting this thing settled. And I'd go up there and talk to him about the Lord. And he'd want to listen. We'd sit. And he always did love people like Billy Graham. And he'd watch Pat Robertson and different ones like that. But he didn't understand church and all that. I think he told me before, I had a chance to lead my dad to the Lord before he died. But he had only been in church a couple times. And I think once when he was a young guy, he crawled in, wanted to keep from freezing to death. And I went up to pay him the last payment. Man, I was happy I had that money. I was going to pay him off. And we were sitting on the front porch. And I said, "Dad, I come to bring you this money." I mean, you know what that felt like to me? I had no relationship with him. He finally trusted me. I kept my word to him. And he kept his word with me. And I was going to fulfill my promise. Do you know what that felt like? I mean, it felt like I was getting my dad back. The one I didn't know when I was a little boy. And I went to give him that money. And he gave me that grunt. This time I didn't run. I waited to hear what he had to say. He said, "Now look here." He said, "Me and your brothers have been talking. And so we don't understand what happened to you. But we believe in it. We believe in it. And you sons remember that too. Maybe it ain't right with you and your dad. Maybe things ain't where they go. Keep working at it, man. It's worth it, I'll tell you." I felt very good. Felt very bad losing my dad. Right when I got to where I could stop up and see him and just be there in his presence. And that old hillbilly's presence, that old man that as a child didn't know anything to me. But there's something happened when these two hearts are turned back toward each other. When that son and that father or that daughter and that son reconnect. When everything's gone out from in between. And all of a sudden, the most predominant relationship in the world is restored. I've got kids that have been on dope. I watched them go bad. I got one that's in trouble right now. I remember her standing on my feet. Want Daddy to walk her around. Worst day in a parent's life is when your child listens to somebody else's voice before you. It's devastating. You remember that point when you had them and whatever you said, they just believed you did it. And they come to that place where, like I did, they just think they're smarter than everybody else and they decide to leave. I don't know what all my kids have done against me across time and what they think I've done against them. But I told one of my sons, I said, look, man, it don't matter. It don't matter. I mean, what does it matter? How many sins there would be in between a son and a father? When they're gone and they reconnect, there ain't no tallying up the score, man, because there's nothing like that reconnection. See? Because if fathers are not turned to sons and sons are not turned to fathers, the reason that it's a curse, it means that we don't know how to connect with God. Because your father is a prototype. He should reflect God. He should teach you how to connect with God. He should teach you how to trust God. When that doesn't happen, when I came into the kingdom, man, my main thing about God was if you do something wrong, He's going to kick your butt. I understood the structured, stiff part, but I didn't understand the touching part. You know, I remember Gordon's daddy, he'd grab his boys, he'd kiss them right in the mouth if he wanted to. And he wasn't he was a tough man too. But these guys, they all loved each other and hugged each other. Sometimes we're not from tactile families that express themselves like that. I never heard my dad say them words, I love you. But sometimes you don't have to say them, you know what I mean? But how many know it feels good when you do? And I highly recommend it. If you got children, tell them that a lot. Tell them that. Tell them that a lot. Hug them. Hug them. My boys don't like it. But Phil's 47, and then sometimes he'll try to run from me, but I won't let him, man. I'll grab him, make him give me a hug. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. I want you to go get the children, bring them in. They've got a little something for the dads that are here. But there's a great story about this in Luke chapter 15. It's called the prodigal son. The story of the prodigal son began at verse 11. I'm not going to read it all. But it just said a certain man had two sons. And you know the story. Give me some Kleenex. This man evidently had worked and stocked up a pretty good load of goods. Because this fellow was young enough to still run around, but there was an inheritance already in order. Because he comes to his father and he said, give me what's mine. Well, he had an elder brother. In those days, the elder brother